Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Quick sound check. Perfect. Love that. So the theme of this track today is customer obsession. And over the next sort of 20-25 minutes, we'll be talking to you about what customer obsession means to Klarna and also to Gymshark. Birmingham's own Gymshark, actually. So as I've been telling people all morning, Gymshark, a local company, and Steve's got a fantastic story about the growth they've seen. So yeah, we were introduced already. I'm Russ, Carroll, Commercial Director at Klarna. Steve?
Steve Hewitt, Gymshark. Russ has just mentioned Birmingham. I don't know if you can tell by the accent, I'm not from this area. I'm originally from the northeast, so if you don't understand me, you're just going to have to listen a little bit harder, I'm afraid. So, but yeah, we'll try our best.
Yeah. And I'm sort of Yorkshire, Manchester, so bit of a northern talk going on. Okay, so in case anyone in the room isn't familiar with Klarna, just a brief intro on Klarna. So we're a bank, we're a fintech payments company headquartered in Stockholm. We're not new, we've been around for 10, 11 years and just under 4 years in the UK. But we're best known actually for our pay later solution. And here's an example of our most recent ad campaign. So you probably recognize Snoop Dogg in the middle there. He rebranded himself as Smooth Dog for the campaign. And we like our dogs, as you can see. But you know, in all seriousness, the message here, and this is how it links to customer obsession, is we're all about smooth. So we're smooth payments. We're trying to remove friction from the checkout. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for customers to shop on our merchant partners' websites. Simple as that. How does Pay Later work? A very quick overview. So, and I'm hoping that, can I ask, I know in all these sort of talks people ask, but has anyone used Pay Later on? Yeah, great to see. Yeah, every year we do something like this, you see more and more hands going up. So it works as follows. The customer completes a purchase by selecting the items, adding to their basket, going to the checkout, and they'll see Klarna Pay Later, as they currently do on Gymshark. The merchant ships the goods to the customer. We pay the merchant, so we will pay Gymshark for the total transaction amount. And then the customer receives the items. They have 30 days to try on, decide colors, styles, send back what they don't want, or keep everything. And the customer then pays Klarna. So very simple, no interest, no fees. This is a try before you buy model. And we're working with lots of leading global brands, including Gymshark.
So we've only got one clicker. I think the budget must have been tight here this week, so we're going to try and do this as best we can. So yeah, Gymshark started by a young 19-year-old guy called Ben Francis. He now looks about 18, actually, 7 years on. In fact, I got involved around about 5 years ago. Didn't have a grey hair in my head, so it tells you who got the worst part of the deal. But yeah, Ben started the brand with his high school friends back in August 2012. And one thing that Ben really sort of set out to do, he wanted to build a product that the bigger brands did not make. So they were really into the gym, really wanted to effectively show off their physique as sort of 19, 20 alpha males did back then. So basically he built the product himself from his grandma's conservatory and a little bit of his mum and dad's help as well. Our positioning is very, very simple. We get talked about in the press a bit, and even sort of local exhibitions and events such as this. As a sports brand, we are not a sports brand. We are laser focused. We're a conditioning brand. I think if you Google conditioning today, it will probably give you air conditioning solutions, which is one of the challenges we do have from a Google search perspective. But if I was trying to explain that to my mum, is we're very much laser focused in the sort of the fitness sort of space. So you will generally not see us on a football pitch. You won't see us on a rugby pitch. you will actually see us in the preparation ready for whatever sport you really want to be the best you can be at. So very much into that sort of conditioning fitness space. Excuse the French. My brand team, they're an absolute pain in the ass, but this is how we're built. We love to disrupt the shit out of the industry we're in. We like to be different. We like to be brave. When I first met Ben, we talked about bravery a lot. Back in the day then, they were very brave. They weren't particularly smart with it. So, you know, the numbers have also got to look after themselves because without cash and profit, you can't actually do the nice things that we now do with our community on a global level. So, but we do like to disrupt. So disrupt for us is about being really brave, being really unique, being very different, but being sort of smart with that. And that combination makes it a really unique blend, and hence probably why we're sort of seeing the success in certainly some of the bigger markets across the globe. We've won a few awards. We're not actually really, I was chatting to Heather earlier from Klarna about actually we don't normally do this sort of thing. But we're also big into partnerships, so we love Klarna. I've just seen Price here, Martin Price as he's known, at DHL in the crowd. We like to work with partners in the right way. But we have won a few awards along the way. So we've won the Fast Track Award. We just won a couple of months ago the Fastest International Growing Sales from a UK Perspective Award. Profit Track gets announced tomorrow. So again, that's the sort of the bravery and the smart bit, the scalability, but the credibility when it comes to the balance sheet. And we are the darlings of the press. You see Ben there, he does look about 20 there, to be fair. This was back, I think, in October, November, just before our blackout campaign. And we do get talked about in the press as this sort of wonderful sort of machine in the industry that we're in. We are shit at lots of things, believe you me. We are a 2 out of 10 business. So actually the opportunity for us over the next few years is to not only scale and stay really authentic, but to do that in the right way. So we've got lots of things to learn. We make mistakes every single day, which is great because you know, we like to fail fast. And people say to me, what do you mean by fail fast? It's about actually learning from those mistakes really, really quickly. So I'll come back to that when we talk about our obsession with customers. So
nice, yeah.
Done.
So that's the theme. What does that mean? In Gymshark terms, what does being obsessed with the customer mean? So
it's interesting actually, the title of this is customer. We actually talk about Gymshark, we don't talk to them about as customers, we talk about them as fans or a community. In the same way that a football fan, so I'm sure there's a few Aston Villa or West Brom fans in the building. And our fan is a bit like a football fan. They're very, very loyal. They love you to death. They'll go through sort of thick and thin. They will travel with you all over the world. But if you're seen not to try or you're seen to not connect with that fan, then they can also become very, very fickle very, very quickly. So the challenge we have is when you've got 9 million social followers across all the various platforms, we grow our social following around about 15 to 20,000 new followers a day to give you some sort of scalability and an idea of that growth. It's great when you get it right. They also are very quick to call you out when you get it wrong. Mm-hmm. So we have to know our audience. This is actually a sort of a takeaway from our playbook, internal playbook, which is all about our purpose. And our view is that we need to understand our audience, our community, better than anybody else. Are we there yet? No. We've got a few hurdles and a few miles to go yet.
It might not look like much, but this is where it all starts. This is where you can change the world, or change how the world sees you. It can be the place where we go to get our bodies right, or where we go to get our heads right. It shows us that even the strongest amongst us ask for help from time to time, and how willing others are to help lift us up. We can lift the weight of the world off our shoulders by putting a little weight on our back. We can silence a noisy world with just the sound of our footsteps. Or speak up and force the world to take notice. Some of us go to stand out. Some of us go because that's where we fit in. It doesn't need a dress code. It has no restrictions, except for the ones we put on ourselves. It's for everyone, everywhere, every day. So although it doesn't look like much, to us, it means the world.
This will be the day.
So that was a video that we launched called the Gymshark 66 campaign. You may have come across it. We launched it on January the 1st, all about the sort of new me, new year. The reason we talk about it in 66 terms is that's the scientists will tell you that's how long it takes, how many days it takes to form a habit. And you can sort of see when you actually connect with a community. We weren't selling product off of the back of that. There was no call to action about go to our website to go and get this offer. It was all about really staying authentic. And that's why we talk about our customer, not as customers, but as fans in a community. You can then see some of the stats that come off of that. That's over 66 days. So some staggering numbers when you actually connect with your community and your fan in the right way. So it's all about authenticity. And people say to us, so how does it work financially at Gymshark? We're doing pretty well. You hear horror stories on the UK high street at the moment, and that's going through its own set of challenges. You've got Brexit in the background as well. You've then got global economy talk, even on the back of that too. We believe actually if you look after that community and after that fan and be obsessed, I think that the obsession is the right word, then actually the numbers look after themselves. So last year we did our financial year is a July year end. So at the end of last year we finished just over 100 mil. This year we're on for around about 180, 200 mil. So we're growing at around about 80, 100 million quid off our own e-commerce channel. We do not work with retailers. We don't work with any bricks and mortar stores. That's purely done off our own e-commerce channels. I think we've got now 13 online stores. So pretty staggering, but that's what happens when you look after your customer.
So one key thing with being obsessed about your customer is speaking to them in the right way in the channels that they use, or like social media and their sort of behaviors. So truly understanding the customer. And this next slide, it was published by Business Insider Intelligence a couple of months ago. It's a survey based on UK and US shoppers, Gen Z and millennials. So millennials defined as 24 to 37. And Gen Z 18 to 23. So both for Klarna and for Gymshark, really important customer segments. And you can see that in the survey, when the shoppers were asked, where do you find out about products? Social media by far outstrips every other medium and channel, including emails, CRM, physical locations, direct websites. So social media is so vitally important, and it's great that we've got Gymshark here today to talk about how they've done Insta and social media so well. To me, they're one of the standout players in that social world.
Yeah, great question. We are, as I said, I think we're fairly rubbish at a lot of things at Gymshark. Social media is something that we do really, really well. I think just talking back to the stats and the age demographics that Russ has just alluded to, I think it's something like 8. If Dave Parry here, our Chief People Officer, was here, but probably he'll tell you a little bit more. But around about 80 to 85% of our 270 staff are under the age of 28. So you definitely don't want me running your social media team. I just fit out of that bracket, unfortunately. So it partly is actually setting up your team to really understand that. And actually we deem talk about millenniums and sort of Gen X, we actually call them social natives. We've sort of actually rebranded that our sort of internally as our term, and we really want to own the space of that social native who are into fitness or conditioning. And that could be somebody who's on the start of their journey, or somebody who's actually going into, maybe compete at even the Olympics or on the world-class stage. So very busy slide this, but actually the thing that you'll see with both our female consumer or fan is they are absolutely influenced by those influencers on social. To tell you that we actually only started working on paid media in the last 12 months based on our growth is fairly staggering. That's because you've got the power of social media and using that again in the right way. And again, we use that in a very organic way. There's not any huge call to actions from what we do on social. It's a very sort of authentic and emotional connection. And if you flick into the male, really no difference. Again, it talks about actually being influenced by those fitness influencers on the social channels. But actually, if you see one of the standout things from both the male and female is that the community is actually really at the heart of what we've done. So, keeping your brand accessible, which I'll talk a little bit about at the end, inclusive, really being part of what we call the Gymshark family is really important. And I don't think there's a better way to show that through social media. And again, Gymshark 66 campaign, give you an example of that. This is where it gets a little bit more scientific. Believe it or not, there is some science at Gymshark. It isn't all about lovely content creation, which is all done in-house. It's also making sure that the numbers look after themselves a little bit. So most companies, most brands, will base their success on social platforms based on number of likes. It's bullshit, okay? So if you look at post number 1, the one on the left, and post number 2, you look at the numbers. To the layman's term, if my mum was in the audience, she would say, well, that one there, the one with the bigger number, is got to be one that was more successful. But actually, that's just number of likes. I can look at an Instagram post and like it without even looking at the content. So the way that we measure ourselves, going to the next slide, Russ, is based on value. And that's all about engagement. So how many saves has it had? How many comments has it had? Because actually somebody making a comment on one of our posts tells me that actually they really give a damn about what you've just posted. Whether it's one of our influencers connected to us or whether it's us as a brand talking about the space that we're in. And you can actually see the stats on the left-hand side versus actually what it did versus the post with the big number of likes on the left. So I think the message with social media is just don't base your whole strategy on volume. We could go out and sponsor probably one of the Kardashians who have got 120 million followers probably each right now. But actually, if that's not the right authentic connection with our consumer, irrelevant of the number of followers and number of likes that we might get from that actually becomes really disinteresting for us. Okay, so it's about, again, staying really connected and being authentic with your audience and really understanding. And being a D2C model and not selling through third-party retailers gives us data in terms of actually what turns them on, but just as importantly, what actually turns them off too. It's really important.
Very good. So we'll just talk about our partnership, a few slides, and we first started talking early last year, and the Gymshark team, I was in most of the meetings, the Gymshark team was really looking for a solution that fits with their business model, which is very much around FOMO, fear of missing out, and latest drops. So could be limited releases, new conditioning gear, and how we could use Klarna Pay Later for that, particularly if the drop happened mid-month and a lot of the millennial audience could be waiting until sort of payday to be able to afford that. So Klarna enables them to order immediately and not miss out, the big thing on missing out. And of course, try at home. So we launched just before Black Friday, lots of press coverage. You'll see here an example of Klarna on Gymshark. And Gymshark really promoted Klarna as part of your Blackout campaign, and you were telling me earlier some of the stats around that, right?
Yeah. So Blackout, I don't know if anybody came out, I don't know if anybody buys any product from Gymshark, but we did something, again, about disruption. So we switched on the Monday before Black Friday, I think it was the 19th of November off the top of my head. I should really know that date, shouldn't I? The weekend before, you could go onto the website, but we basically removed all the buy buttons from those 13 online stores. So you could see the new prices that we're going to go live at 3 p.m. on the Monday, but you couldn't buy. So again, that fear of missing out is I've got to be on that site at 2:59, otherwise I'm not going to get my product. So come 3 o'clock on the Monday, we had 500,000 people, all unique people, on the 13 online stores all at the same time, which is, it's about, I think it's something like 7 Wembley stadiums of people across the globe. Nice. And actually, the other thing that was really also important regarding the partnership with Russ and the gang was going back to certainly our female consumer is they actually like to try on stuff before, the one thing we don't have is a bricks and mortar. We don't have the luxury of them trying it on and saying, actually, that doesn't quite fit properly, or that colour's not quite right on me. So actually, the relationship with Klarna, we sort of launched it at a perfect time. I think we switched Klarna on the month before we actually switched on Blackout, and the numbers were staggering. I think we did 380,000 orders in 5 hours across those 13 online stores. Yeah. So the Klarna effect was pretty significant as a result. So, one of the bits of feedback we get from our audience is aesthetics really important in that product, but also the performance element of that product too. And actually then being able to try that on and pay later really gives them the flexibility and really sort of helps drive trust with our brand for sure. So it had a significant impact.
Nice. So we launched in the UK, the Nordics, and positive reaction, I guess? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, obviously Nordics, I think most people who understand Klarna, they're very strong in the Nordic region. I think 50% of all orders coming from those 4 countries come through that Klarna sort of checkout. But they also, again, this community is not afraid. They're not afraid to tell you exactly how they feel about either a new function on the website, a new product, could be a new tool and concept such as Klarna. So this is actually a little bit of a snippet of many social comments that we got back when we switched on Klarna as a payment option and method.
Right.
So but it had a significant effect for sure.
Good. So key question: is it working from a business perspective?
So when the trading team came to me, or probably back in the summer actually, they said, right, Steve, we've got this thing called Klarna. We think it could be great for our brand and our business and most importantly our community. And I was like, I get it, really great, fits with our consumer, but actually what's going to happen to my returns rate? So our returns rate in our business, for any fast fashion people in the room, you probably want to close your ears because ours is pretty good in comparison to fast fashion. Our returns rate's about 11%, probably because there's a little bit more give in the product, I'm guessing, than there would be in a pair of jeans. But my question was, is our returns rate going to spike up to sort of 25-30%, especially with that, more so that female consumer? And actually we have seen a returns increase with Klarna. It's around about 6% more than it would be with non-Klarna payments and the way that consumer checks out. But actually the maths exercise that we've done from actually a driving of loyalty, retention, average basket went up by 30-odd%. When you look at the mathematics, people lie, numbers don't, generally. Actually what we've sort of found is that the mathematics are pretty spectacular, and this is after 4 months. So the plan for us is to potentially roll that out into other markets. Because, as I said, the feedback, which is probably the most important that we're getting from our audience, has been nothing but positive. So, really, all-round positive for sure.
Very good. So, you mentioned Gymshark's the darling of the media. I saw Ben was at Downing Street yesterday. Is that right?
He was. Did anybody see that? He was in his tracksuit, tucked into his socks. Anyway, but you know what? His view is this is what I am, and this is what you get. So fair play to him. I think it's brilliant. Actually, it's probably what the politicians need right now.
Yeah, agreed. So what's next for Gymshark? What does the year ahead and the next few years have in store?
Describing Gymshark in one word, it's sort of relentless. So people look from the outside and go, great brand, love to be part of it, and it is great. There's definitely worse places to be than Gymshark right now for sure, but it is relentless. So we're playing massive catch-up. We got 270 people in the business. the challenge we have, we don't have many policies in our business, but we've got one policy that we really stick to, and it's all about the people. So talking about the team that run our social media, it's a young, brave, far braver than I was at that age. And the problem that we have with the recruitment policy is that it takes us time to recruit the right people, because our policy is we'd rather have a hole than an arsehole in our business. So when you look at it in those terms, actually, we've got 150 live vacancies in our business to really scale us to around about $1 billion in 5 years' time. That's what we think we can get to. Certainly from the US is a huge opportunity. So we're playing massive catch-up. So what's next is sort of not playing catch-up as much. But actually where we're winning, it's localization, localization, localization. So again, actually one of the snippets we've taken from the playbook here in terms of the slide that you're seeing is we actually want to be local globally. And you hear a lot of brands say this, and it's just a tagline. We've really got to reinforce and actually live and breathe this. We've certainly seen it in the Nordics. Germany, we've seen huge increases in Germany, double what we're seeing in other markets, because actually we've put a German team into the business who looks after Germany. That's not British people who can speak German, that's actually Germans who actually understand the culture. Because without that, you can't understand that German community. That's one of many examples. So what's next? It's all about being local. The other thing is, and I sort of touched on it earlier, is about the accessibility. One of the key values of our brand, both internally and with that community, is about accessibility. So we will do more pop-up stores. That's not bricks and mortar. That is not us going into physical bricks and mortar where we're now going to, based on selling product. That is going into a city, going in for 2 days, hemorrhages money, by the way. So if any finance people close your ears, hemorrhages money, but it's not about, it's the best investment we can make in terms of being connected and staying authentic with our community. So we've done them all over the world now. We've just done Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago. We got Frankfurt next. Then we got Manchester, and I think it's LA after that. And you will literally have 8-hour queues to get into that store. But it's not a store where you buy product. You can buy some product, but it's actually about Q&A with our athletes. It's about, you can actually have a weightlifting session with your favorite athlete. It's all about, actually, where I think the high street are really finding it tough, it's all about experience and all about, again, that authenticity. So yeah, what's to come? Probably lots. It changes on a weekly basis, and I'll probably have more grey hair this time next year for sure. So,
perfect. So, look, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you don't do a whole lot of these, as you mentioned, and I think so relevant for customer obsession, the way you view customers as fans. And you were telling me earlier as well that you don't really care when they buy, if they don't buy straight away, it's that sort of fan network, and I think that's quite a refreshing view, especially as we're at an internet retailing conference, to hear the chief exec of a company talk like that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Any questions for Gymshark, for Klarna? Okay, we'll take it. Yeah.
Pricey, no questions from you.
Hiya. I just wondered, you alluded to being a 2 out of 10 company early in the talk, Steve, and you mentioned making some mistakes, or making quite a lot of mistakes along the way. I wondered whether you minded sharing 1 or 2 of them with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we are a sort of a conditioning brand, which is actually led by product in many respects in terms of the execution. The other thing we are is actually we're a tech business in many respects, because we're only online. We talk about these 13 online stores. If you go back to the blackout, I talked about it quite positively. When we did launch on the 19th of November last year, our US store went down for an hour because of the pure scale of that many people trying to check out at the same time. So actually, us not being prepared, I talk about my team being complacent. We got actually a set of words which actually really drives the culture at our place, which is work hard and stay humble. So when we do get it right, we might high-five each other, but we'll high-five each other for literally 10 seconds, and it's like, right, what went wrong? What worked, which is normally the shortest list of the lot. What didn't work, generally very long. And then from that, what are we going to do differently for next time? So part of it is actually planning much better. We're trying to plan now 2 years ahead. So in Gymshark language, 2 years ahead is like ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. It's like dog years. So planning ahead, or planning we've not been very good at. We've just got to get way more professional at that, and that will come with time and a bit more experience. The other challenge at times is that we sometimes talk about capability and culture within our team, with actually the people resource. One and the same thing. I think those two things are a little bit different. We're sort of culture first. If you lose that, you lose everything. But actually, that's got to blend in with capability when you're sort of trying to move up to the next level. So one of the briefs I've given to our people team is how do we make employee 500 be as passionate as employee number 2? How do we do that? Because that's really difficult when you dilute and you open more satellite offices. But I think if we fix that and we get that bit right, then you know the opportunity is going to be awesome for us.
Hi there. Interested on the Cyber Monday with 500,000 people ready to hit the site. What preparations are you doing there with your hosting company? I think, is it on Shopify the site is?
Yeah, so I use a layman's terms. Let's just say Shopify were on the hot stove after Black Friday with the US store going down for an hour. But we have again an awesome relationship with Shopify based out of Toronto. So they look after a couple of big retailers. They look after people like Fashion Nova in California. You may have come across them. They look after, I think, one of the Kardashians, Kylie Jenner. I think she's just been announced as a first billionaire in sort of her bracket as such. And one thing that they've got to learn is that when we tell them that there's going to be this many or this much traffic on our site at the same time, is actually believing that. I think with companies like Shopify, I think they get probably told by a lot of companies and brands that they're going to scale this quickly. And they go, yeah, it's just salesman talk. It's actually, they're going to be 30% less than that. And actually what happens in our business, DHL found out the same thing, is actually genuinely we go through that number. That may not always happen, but I think it's about them actually, and our partners really believing in actually our forecast. So, and we've got to do a better job of giving them, back to the sort of the same answer to the first question, planning ahead much further in advance. We can't be going into a sort of a Black Friday event 2 months out. We've got to do that 10 months out. So, yeah, a lot. I think I got a lot of grey hair from actually last Black Friday. But again, in terms of actually one of the other sort of the values is that we're very transparent as a brand. If we get it wrong, we tend to say sorry, which I think actually goes a long way with the social native for sure, rather than actually hide behind it and say nothing. I think that's the worst thing you can do. So back to planning, I think, on both our parts and our partners' parts.
Well, I couldn't think of a better case study, better presentation for a customer obsession conference than that, and I'm sure you'll all agree. I've got one final question, if I may. So you're an organisation that clearly is uber authentic. I don't think I've come across a brand that is that authentic. And you talk about kind of building communities, generating fans. What's the most inspiring story you've heard from one of your fans?
Oh, that is a great bloody question. Probably the Gymshark 60. There's actually lots, right? So if you work in our customer experience team, they get hundreds a week in terms of how we've inspired people, whether it's whether them going through mental health issues, physical health issues. Probably the one that's most poignant, because I have 2 kids, is the Gymshark 66 campaign. So there's a sort of a male and a female winner, and we announced the female winner, an American girl who just lost her son from a rare condition, and actually she was really struggling mentally. So the 66 campaign sort of helped her sort of almost clear her head and get back on track. We had the whole company FaceTimer, and I mean, there was not a dry eye in the house, to be fair. So in terms of inspiring somebody, it was more from a mental health perspective, and sort of using the physical attributes to really help her get over that. And I'm sure she won't get over that, but certainly puts her on the right road to recovery, I think.
But it's also having kind of a clear empathy with your audience as well, and understanding kind of, talk about personalization a lot, but I think understanding and knowing every single one of your customers is so imperative in this day and age. So it's great to see.
Yeah, we talk about taglines that companies use. I think you know, being community or customer obsessed, depending on the language that you use. I think to be successful, it can't be just a tagline. You've really got to give a shit.
Got to live it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Well, massive round of applause for guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.